This is my swing arm off my Champion Legend sidecar. It's 2005. I'm replacing the bearings in the swing arm. They had a little bit of slop in them, and they use bearing number 99502H. They're sealed bearings. There's one of them right here. Press this bugger out. Sealed. Here's the spacer that I removed, cleaned out. But I got a new one in there now. Right here is where you see the where the brake line was riveted on there. I had to drill those out to get the swing arm off. And here's where your brake caliper bracket bolts on. There's your shock mount. There's a spindle right here. It's a 1 inch. And this is the other side. The spacer goes down in there, and then you got this little shelf that the bearing sits on. You press it down in there until it seats in the bearing. You'll feel it seat. And there's a few little tiny shims on the outside before you put the pivot shaft bolt through. I put a little grease in here to help the new bearing slide in there. I got the spacer in there, a little bit of grease, not much. I'll put some more in there when I put the pivot shaft in there and get it together. Just a little bit of light grease to help that bearing seat down in there. Okay, here I've pressed in the second bearing, and I got the spacer down in there. It's ready to go back together. There's some powder coat in there, originally, so I had to clean it, with this little sanding wheel, just lightly, to get the bearing to go in there, because the original ones, they were in there pretty tight, and you could feel the bearings when you spun them, and so that means it's in there way too tight, plus they were worn. I mean, but I've seen brand new bearings do the same thing, and that's not good. That means it's just too tight, So I cleaned out the powder coating, and tap them back in. What I do is you use the old bearing, and you just put it on top of the new bearing, and you gently tap it in there with a rubber mallet. And then when it seats on that ledge, you'll know it, when you drive it home. So you be a little gentle with it, and it'll go down in there. If you don't get it cocked or anything, so just go slow, and it'll go down in there. Just make sure nothing's corroded in there. Clean out the corrosion and crap, and you're good as new. They spin really freely now, just like brand new bearings should, and it's ready to go back together. And it's gonna be nice, because I could hear something snapping whenever I spun it around, and backing it out of the garage in a U. I could hear something snap. I know a hem joint was going south on it too, but the bearings on the swing arm, sure wasn't helping that. But I'm gonna replace that hem joint, because that ball was, having a lot of slop in the hem joint. But I'm gonna get that in there, and it'll be all tight. Get rid of a little bit of wobble, make it handle a little bit better, without any slop in there in the bearings. So this is off my 2005 Champion Legend sidecar, the swing arm, and I ordered it with the brake. So that's what these bolts are for. Like I was saying, the bracket, the brake bolts to that. So you want to order that at the factory, because you got to tap the swing arm and have those extra pads welded on there so you can tap into it. I don't know if they're on ones that don't come with the brake. But when I ordered it, they said you could add a brake later on, but it was easier to do it at the factory, of course, after welding these pads on there so you can tap it, so anywho, it's nice having the brake. If you can afford it, get your sidecar ordered with a brake, and sure help you stop. But anywho, This is what it looks like. Ready to go back together. This is my Champion Legend shock. It's 13 inch. It's a standard Harley rear shock. The guts of it, the spring is a progressive shock, and the spring number is 1362 105 150. And just need to replace the actual shock itself. Take this collar off. You gotta compress the spring, and this collar comes off, and then you can lift out the shock and replace it. You know, because trying to call progressive, that ain't gonna work. You know, to replace it, especially if you have some out-of-date sidecar that's not being built anymore. But there's a sticker on it still, and it's got 5 adjustments on the bottom. Right here, I keep it on the 3rd adjustment because if it's on the weakest, I've had the wires rip out of the fender well. There's a light on top of the fender, you know, and the wires going up to it. The wheel bottom's out when you're on really rough roads up north. And I've had that happen twice when I've taken trips up north to Michigan a couple times. Ripped the wires out both times, so I put it on the 3rd notch now, and I've never had any problems since, and that's been like 10 years or so.